Today is Wednesday, March 1st, and this is the Hendrick Hudson Board of Education meeting. Can I please have a motion to open the meeting?
Jen, okay.
Can I have a second?
Ally.
All in favor?
Okay.
Aye. Okay, the board will be entering executive session. The Hendrick Hudson School District Board of Education will convene for the purpose of collective negotiations under the Taylor Law, medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment or employment history of a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment or employment or promotion or demotion or discipline or suspension or removal of a particular person or corporation. May I have a motion to move into exec? Can I have a second? All in favor? Okay, the board will be back at approximately 7 p.m. Good evening. Today is Wednesday, March 1st, and this is the Hendrick Hudson Board of Education meeting. The board has just returned from executive session, and now we will enter into public session. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda as stated?
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda.
Okay.
I would like to move the superintendent's report to after the recognition celebration of the STEM program.
Alrighty. All right, we're going to begin. What?
I think, Carmen, do you need to vote on that? To
Yes.
move? Okay.
Right.
I think we should do the pledge first. Yeah.
Do the pledge first.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. The pledge is done, and we're going to move the superintendent's report up after our recognition. Can I have a motion?
So I made the motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? All right. Wonderful. So we're going to start this evening with Miss Boyle and the STEM program, and they're going to come up and give us a demonstration.
Hi, everybody. So I'm part of the strategic planning, and we were talking about increasing communication with the community and getting you guys to see what the kids do in school. And I have really good coders in my class, so they are here to teach you about coding in 4th and 5th grade. So, I can just go on this slide, or? So, the kids that were up there are listed, different names here. Tell us your name.
Hi, my name is Mabel G. Musso. I'm in the 5th grade. Hi, my name is Mabel Michio. I'm in the 4th grade. Hi, my name is Violet Fonseca. I'm in the 5th grade. Hi, my name is Lachlan Conroy. I'm in the 5th grade.
Welcome.
So we use block-based programming in STEM. We use Scratch and Sphero. That's what we're going to use today. Lachlan, do you want to tell us what block-based means?
Block-based means you build the coding with building blocks. Like Legos, you can type in the numbers you need and put the blocks together to make a code.
So it's not, in the middle school, they'll be writing, like using JavaScript or different programs, but in elementary school, they're using block-based programs. So I talked to them about how it's like Legos and they put the things together. Okay, so the first one we don't have to demonstrate today, it would take a really long time. Lego for Education is funded through the PTA grants. So what they do is they build a Lego project. Right now it's directed Lego projects, but I've had kids that have built their own project. Then they connect it to a battery and they can code it to move. So there are kids that have made cars, they make Ferris wheels, and they follow step by step how to make it, and then they code it on the iPad. The ABC classes really like this, and it's a really good way for them to see what they make, because sometimes I think when it's on the computer, they don't necessarily have the touch and like the hands-on feeling, so when they do this, they get to see that they actually can create something that'll move. Okay, so Scratch coding is the one that they use in 3rd through 5th, 2nd, or K and 2 use Scratch Junior. So Scratch coding is the program that I would love to say that I'm the best expert in, but I'm not. It's Lachlan. And the other kids whose projects I'm going to show you today, I started the year showing them how to do Scratch coding, and I stopped helping them after like a week because they went home and they were like, look what I made, look what I did. And the game I'm going to show you, I did not help them with. They made it all on their own, and now they have a platform that we use. They can have a classroom that they can share games with each other. So they shared this game, and it is the most popular game at Furnace Woods. So, oh wait, the Goblin game. Come on over, Lachlan. So Lachlan's gonna show you how to play it. Who's playing it? Ava? There you go. Use the arrows. Go ahead.
There are two players. One player uses the arrow keys and the other uses WASD. For player 2, you use S to attack, and for player 1, you use down to attack. So you have to knock out their lives, which is displayed on next to their goblin avatars.
If you ever see them in school, they're probably playing this, and I can't.
And if you have
say
that yellow bar next to it, Phil, you have to hit a button. I can't remember which one, but you use a super. You use a super one, which takes out more lives.
All right, Lachlan, how did Luca make this? Luca's in here right now, but what did you tell me he used to teach him?
He used like a tutorial, and he made it his own, basically. That one, like you need the keyboard for, that's how intense it is. I did not show him how to do it. When it starts, it's just a white screen. So he put all of that together. He made the backdrop, he made the characters, and did everything. The other one is one that if you guys have your phones, you can scan the QR code to me. This is the one that I taught them in class. Yeah. So if you go to pop the balloon, if you scan it with your QR code on your phone, you just hold up your phone, you'll be able to play it. So I taught them how to make this, and then we made QR codes in the class, and they brought it home to their parents so they could see it. For those of you that aren't watching it, there's a balloon flying around, and they have to click on it to pop it. So that was a tutorial they followed with me, but they've evolved. So then the next slide is the spheros that they do. Sorry, because I got it wrong word. The spheros are another block-based programming. It's an actual robot that they're coding, so they're using the same type of coding, but coding the robot to move. And we don't have mazes with us today because I didn't have time to bring tape. But my demonstrators are going to show you guys from the board, so if I can have some volunteers, they're going to show you how to make it work. Everybody? All right, go on.
Jen, yeah, what do I do? I go out there?
Yeah, they'll show you. Anybody else? I got 3 more.
Okay. I need somebody who's a really good teacher. Okay.
Mabel.
Okay, Mabel, show me how it works.
All right, you need one more.
Anybody
There
else?
we go.
Go, Jess.
Lachlan?
Here, Jeremy's coming.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you guys name them?
Some people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this like yours?
No, there's like a bunch.
For the people that can't see what they're doing, so what they have to do is the same concept. They put the block-based coding together, but they have to now look at angles and decide what way they want their robot to go. So when we did the maze, they had to see how far they wanted it to go, how fast they wanted it to go to get it through the maze. I asked them before they came, but they're busy right now. I was like, what did you guys think? They really was really hard. So I'm trying to work on problem solving and getting them to work through challenges. And this is what it is. So now they take it on their own and they do a really good job.
So knows how to align.
So,
And how does it work with the maze? So if there was a maze on the floor, how does it work with the maze? So there's math balls. Okay. Super cool.
So what they would do is they would step. So if they knew it was this long, they'd say there's 3 steps. So how many seconds was the steps, and then how much speed there is involved.
Use they're like,
What's your favorite part of this program? Make it easy what you do. Because that doesn't do any stuff.
Now what?
I'm gonna give them like 2 more minutes, but again, for anybody that's listening, a really good thing for this is that you can scaffold it. So right now, they're writing the block-based coding, but for agency and for some of the 1211 kids, I will let them draw, and they'll do whatever they draw. So it still helps them decide like how the robots are doing what they want to do, but it's just a and at the older grades, I don't know, I have to figure that out, so they can graph. You can graph the way that they move so that they can analyze the data.
Jeremy, are you in the driver's seat?
I personally go in the hundreds.
Okay.
So you have 150 were like, how many seconds?
And then it's what after this like master like where do you get to build off of this?
So I gave the mazes, everybody came in and was like, why are there dead bodies on the floor? I was like, and then now I'll give them like during our code week, I said, you guys can just use it. And I had so many kids, they're like, well, can I make my own these? Can I had kids that were building points around the room and they had to make an obstacle course for how to get past things. So just letting them, because
Yeah, now that they've learned the skills. And
I gave them the tools and I wanted them to be able to build from that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
You've done a great job. You want to go? Thank you very much.
Good job, Lee. All right, guys, you may come back. Good job, guys. Thank you. So Ava says she's not done, so I'm gonna plug for the next thing. We are doing a STEAM Innovation Day. Benita and I planned it together where you'll get to see projects K through 12. These will be there, coding will be there. I know the art show is coming for the technology and art department, and it'll be just a really cool day. It's for the community. Anybody can come. It's a day of different, I think there's about 3 or 4 sessions that you can come. You can do the projects that we're doing in class. The vendors will be there, and I think it'll be really cool. So, thank you.
Did you say where?
Oh, it's at the high school, sorry, it's
High
here.
school.
Yes.
Time?
Here from 9 to 12 on 25th.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for coming. That was awesome.
Can I jump in and just, he's not seeing.
Yeah.
Thanks, Greg. Thank you, Megan, and thank you, boys and girls, for coming out tonight, and thank you to your parents for getting you here to show all that off. I just want to give a quick plug. First, let me thank Meg for taking this position for us. We've been grooming her for a little while. But I also want to thank her colleagues who aren't here tonight. So we're very proud and very excited to have this program K through 8. So Heather Angelo runs the kindergarten and first grade STEM science program. Kathy Holtzman does it at 2-3. And Carissa Locatelli is our middle school person. So kudos to all of them. They clearly are doing amazing things for our kids. So thank you, everybody.
All right, fantastic. Okay, so we have changed the agenda slightly to bring the superintendent's report front and center for a few reasons. Mr. Hochreiter had requested a leave of absence, and in his absence, we have Dr. Loro stepping in as our acting superintendent. I think it's really important that we give him a warm welcome. We're grateful that he's here to help us, and I want to let him introduce himself to everybody. Please give Dr. Loro a warm welcome.
Well, I'm happy to be here, and it's been an interesting 2 days already because yesterday was a snow day. So I warned them when they called. I said, please give me the emergency closing list, because in my last one we had not only a snow day, we also had a real bomb threat and needed to close twice in the course of a week. I said, I'm not walking into the district without that plan. Sure enough, we needed it. So hopefully that's all passed, and we're not going to have any of those other things that I didn't want to mention again. But it's good to be here, and I'm spending my time just getting acclimated, and so this is my first board meeting, really the first time meeting the board as a whole, and it's been a good feeling about it and working with staff. And Right now, I haven't been able to get out of the district office, but I do plan on doing that and getting around to the schools. But for this probably better part of this week is just trying to work on getting to know what the issues are and getting to look at how to address them. And I know that that's a concern, and even a concern for some of you that are here. So one of the reasons for doing what we're doing is that maybe I can answer questions before you all start asking them. But I know what the issues are. I've spent time when I found that I was going to be doing this, not only looking at your wonderful website that has a lot of material if you haven't looked at it, the strategic plan, all that good work that was done with that and where it's at. In addition to the board meetings, budget presentation in January, and the rollout of the budget presentation to get a handle on it. You should know this, as I've said to the board, I have a dual certification. I was a math teacher and computer science teacher, so I know about programming. All that was very interesting today, and I appreciate the demonstration. But my interest has always been in the area of math and numbers and all of that. So when I did my certification up at New Paltz, I did my certification in becoming the superintendent and getting my license, but I also did the school business official certification. So I actually have both. I've never been in Enrique's position, but I know enough. We talk the same language, and it's really easy to work with someone that understands me and all the numbers, so it's really good. I enjoy that part of it. I like putting budgets together. I enjoy the challenges that we face. The challenges, obviously, a number of them are, taxes, tax rates, and the like, and what's going on with Indian Point and closing and the tax impact that will have, on the district in the near future. Again, I don't have solutions tonight. I have a lot of questions. I'm still gathering information, but we have a timeline that we want to work with, and what you all should be aware of is that the board will become very active in the process and try to be making decisions in a consistent way, getting to the budget vote that we have on the 12th, correct? I did it again.
16th.
May 16th.
Well, the budget vote, I'm sorry, the budget vote is May 16th and the adoption is April 12th. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
So our bigger problem is the April 12th deadline, which is coming up sooner. And then we've got a month to go out and talk about it and explain what's in it. But getting it built by then in a short, I don't want you to think we just started from scratch, because obviously they've been working on this since January. And we're working on it now together, along with the other administrators, to try to put together the pieces that make up the entire budget. Of course, the K-5 piece is what are we doing and how is that going to be implemented makes a huge difference. Even just to correct whatever we saw, and I heard from all of you, the busing piece, the transition pieces, all of these, no matter which one we tweak and whatever change we make, will cause an effect, or have an effect on the budget. And so it's important for us to get that one out of the way early, because it really sets the stage for so many of the other things that we do. I don't want to leave our secondary people out of this, conversation, and the board has expressed some interest too in what are we doing as far as improvements. So yes, we're interested in maintaining a reasonable tax rate increase, but at the same token, we'd like to improve instruction in some way, shape, or form. That now is through K-12, not simply just the elementary side of the coin. So we will look at all of these things, and we will have an eye toward what improvements can we make and yet still maintain and control the budget so it doesn't get to be too much of a tax rate increase. I think if I may go back to the Princeton plan, and I think we may as well say publicly that we want to tweak it. We're not looking to get rid of it, because I know there were some people asking that question. And I say that because it's the best program that we can have at this point in time for a number of reasons, and you went off on the right track to try to do it. And that is the equity piece, equalizing program, and making it more efficient. And I know that I think in the past you weren't given the information on it, and that's the kind of thing that I would like to bring out over the next several weeks and have you understand what's in the budget and what it will look like as we go forward. And the reason for those things are many, but more importantly is keep an eye always on the students, keep an eye on the program, and what is it that we have that we want, what are the things that we have that can be improved, and what are the things that we might have that maybe it's time for a change. And I don't know what those are right now, but as we go through the process with input, not only from, and I say the staff with a big S, meaning everybody, and that is, whether it be a teacher, custodial workers, whatever the problem is, whatever it needs to be, make sure it gets fed through the proper channels and through the right resources so that we understand what it is that you need and wind up giving that attention in the budget process ultimately to the board and then adoption by the board. So that's where we're going, and I do understand what the concerns are. Again, as an educator, I'm concerned about the transitions. The first time I heard about the plan, the transitions bothered me. If you think about early childhood days, I mean, it's hard to remember them, but maybe you've got your own children. It's enough to get them familiar with something, and if it's a year or two in a building, and then you yank them out, and you're in another year or two in a building, and then again, and then finally onto the middle school and on their way, and they're a little older. So the transitions are an issue. We know that the present one, we've got busing situations where students are on the bus for longer than we want, 40 minutes, 60 minutes, whatever that might be. And if we keep things the way they are, then obviously we need to improve the busing schedule anyway, or look at a new busing schedule to better fit our needs. So with all that being said, I can go on. I've been talking to a lot of groups and a lot of people in the last day or two, including our PTA people today. There's probably a lot more that I probably didn't think of, and if there's something else you can think of that I should say, I will, really address it. But I look forward to really getting in there. I'm in the building. I try to get in as early as I can with traffic and get here on time. And then work, I don't care if it's late. It's 2 nights I've been here, and 2 nights it's been 7, 8, 9 o'clock. It doesn't matter. I'm here to do the job. I'm here to get the things straightened out and move us forward and make sure that whatever we do by the time the next budget is being put in place for July 1, that it's what the community wants and what the issues have been addressed. That's really it in a nutshell. And that's the best I can do for you. So thank you for your patience in listening.
Can I just ask one question?
Yeah.
Just because I want to just make sure that everyone understands and we clarify here. When we talk about, we're not going back to the way that it was, but we're not keeping necessarily what it is now. I think it's important for everyone to understand what that actually means. Can you explain that a little bit about what that might look like?
Sure. I mean, we're toying with a K-3 structure at 2 of our buildings and a 4-5 building as one possibility. Today we looked at the possibility of going K1, 2 and with 3, 4, 5, but we're not sure that any one building would be able to handle the 3 grades. And all the schools would be able to handle 3 grades. So that's the other one that we're looking at. Then we're looking at, as we look at that, what does the transportation mean? Well, let me just explain briefly because I think you can conceptualize it. I'm going to name them wrong again, but there's BB at 1 and Vertis Woods is the 2 extremes, right? So if we look at those 2 as our K2, K3 buildings, then the transportation is limited to just the smaller area. And they'll become your community elementary school. Then it's not a bad thing to do around 3rd and 4th grade where you bring them all together. And you've got Furnace Woods that captures that very nicely. I'm sorry, it's the other one. Thank you. And that one would then take those middle grades, and then they would be able to go off to the middle school and on to the high school. So that's the 2 things that we're thinking about. Whether they fall out that way depends on the classroom's availability and or how the transportation breaks out. So what we don't want to do is increase costs. What we're looking to do is either come cost neutral or even, if possible, decrease costs. I'm sure that we're going to go a little bit over my promise because I heard about a few things today that we need to probably do, that one building may have this and not have that. And so we'll have to kind of look at what it is that we have to do to make those improvements and what those costs will be. So that's where we're heading. I want
everyone to also understand that this is just proposed stuff, right? We're not,
Nope.
we haven't, there's no decisions that have been made. This, you're hearing about it sort of the same time we're all hearing about it. And I just wanted to clarify that for everyone, because I know that I saw everyone's faces and I see people nodding heads and, you know, I think at the end of the day, what everyone wants is what's best for our students, right? So it's up to us to evaluate that. And it might not be best for everybody, but we're gonna try to make the best compromise possible. And that's how we are here, sitting here now. And it took Dr. Loro to come in and kind of give us a little direction, right? I mean, and so we will evaluate this, just like we've been evaluating everything else.
I just wanted to, because I know there are teachers, it's not only because the teachers are in the room, I would say this anyway, I don't mean to leave out my concerns about the teachers who already made the move last year, and to go through a process again. So we are speaking about that, and we will discuss ways to mitigate that or to improve upon, if there's another move involved, how to make that happen as easily as possible. So that still, these are all moving parts, and all of them need to be considered, including reassigning people to different buildings. Yeah, I did. Thank you. I did leave out the one thing that I did want to speak to. So on the Indian Point and the decommissioning, I mean, Joe had served on that, so I will be on that committee and serve on that as well. But I know that there's a group concerned, and so am I, actually. I said, geez, do I want to come in there? It's radioactive, you know, it's a joke, but anyway, I know it's not. To look at the thing carefully and to come up with, we've got money for monitoring, and to try to create, with community input, a better system that would, as I said to Benita, can it handle it? What I'd like to do is get monitoring devices within the community, particularly on our schools, so we can test water, air, and water, air, and the ground. And so what those devices would be wired to our system, so it would feed data, say, down to our offices here in the district, and then somebody is constantly looking at it, and we know whether the needle is moving one way or the other, so that we're aware of if there's a potential problem, what to do about it, rather than right now we are not sure whether there are people here that don't believe what they're hearing, so it would be our own private monitoring system that we would put in place that has nothing to do with what's going on over there, and nothing to do with anybody from the state. It'll just be our system that we will get through our own RFP and a process and an implementation plan, and people on our staff that will be looking at it after they're schooled about what to watch for. And then that will be reported out. We'll figure out some way of getting that information out, you know, through to the district. If it's up to me, I don't have a problem with it. You want to look at it, maybe we can make it available so you can see the monitoring devices yourself on your own computer system. If it's possible, we'll do that. As I said, if I used that 100 times today, I'm very transparent. You have a question, the door's open, make an appointment, come on in. Carmen is the keeper of the calendar, because right now she just points me in a direction and I go. I haven't had any lunch again today, but that's 2 days in a row. No, it's great, I want to lose weight, this is a good way to do it. So, it's fine. All I'm saying is it's been pretty full, so we've been talking about how to, control the calendar a little bit. But please, if you have a comment, my email, you know what it is, it's dennis.lauro@Hendrick-Hudson-Schools. Henwood Schools.
Yep.
So feel free to send a note. I like to look at them tonight. I'm gonna make a promise that I should probably look at them before I go to bed, because I don't like them accumulating. And all day I haven't had a chance to look at them. So I'll probably go home because I'll obsess if I don't go to sleep with knowing that I answered everybody's emails. So I have this thing about emails. So. But thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, so while we're in superintendent's report, we have to kind of hit all the bullets here. Margaret, did you want to give a pre-K update? Ready?
Okay, so the RFP process closed on Friday. We have 2 collaborators interested in working with us, a new collaborator and the collaborator we had this past year. I visited the new site this morning. Looks lovely. We talked about programs. She showed me around the facility. I actually was there while kids were there. She shared with me some information that I could share with parents, because obviously when the application goes out, I ask them to rank their choices in the lottery, and then we figure out where people are going. I continue to get calls every day, so I'm just waiting for all of you to give me the green light to put the application up. I will email the parents whose emails we have in the system. Those are siblings of current students. So we're aware of a certain number of incoming 4-year-olds because they live in our student management system. I'm sure that there are other students out there that we're not yet aware of, and they would then be able to go to the website and get the application. So I want to develop that timeline for people. I just spoke to a lovely woman this morning, and I said, call me back tomorrow. So you need to be able to tell me what direction we are going in with all of this.
How many seats do they have available for us?
The first collaborator could take 18. The second collaborator would be interested in 10.
Is the second collaborator collaborating with any other school already?
So the first collaborator is Rising Star. We collaborated with them this year. They're on the Croton border. The second collaborator is Aunt Bessie's in Peekskill. They do work with Peekskill schools. I'm not sure if they take Lakeland.
So they already have UPK students there?
Yes, they do. They have children of all preschool ages. So they have 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds. They have what we used to call almost kindergarten, the kids who missed the cutoff for K and are therefore in preschool an extra year.
So are we saying we're only going to take 28 altogether, or are we talking about having our own classes again?
That's the question.
She wants more.
Right, well, what is it going to cost to have additional seats?
Additional
Yes.
seats?
Our own seats. So
Yes.
we're going to have the 2 classes again? I think it was somewhere in
No, I just want you to explain that 10,000 that we'll probably target.
So we continue
Possibly,
to,
it's a competitive grant,
right.
but, go ahead.
We continue to get information on the expansion grant, and they still owe me information on Title I spending. The way the expansion grant will work, and as Dr. Laura said, it is competitive, so we're in the mix with however many districts through their hat in the ring as well. You must first meet your already granted seats. So Hendrick Hudson has 73 possible seats at $5,400 per student. The additional monies don't kick in until the 74th student. So
we're not.
No, we can get there.
we could get there, but it would mean, again, if we had more collaborators, that would have added to the mix. We will have 30, if we go back out again, we will have 36 students in the 2 programs, the 2 classrooms that we currently have. It's up to this board to determine if you wanted to add to the district program.
But how many did we have signing up for children last year? I don't think it was that many.
Well, let's talk about why that might be if you're a parent. So I think last year we had 68 families in the lottery. There were parents who were a little put off about the lack of before and after school opportunity. The only place they could go for that was Rising Star. There were parents who were hamstrung by the lack of transportation. So there were parents who, some of us are lucky enough to have a workplace where there is daycare. A couple of parents did express that to me. Some parents travel and so took the child to daycare with them and then brought the kid back home. So we know that not all of the parents who were possible 4-year-old participants even put their name in for the lottery. Again, I don't know, I think Carmen
But
will
we're not changing any of that formula, right? We're not providing transportation, it sounds like for those parents, that situation is not gonna change. We're not providing after school or before school
That's
daycare.
tweakable, because that's within our control. I would say the busing is not. We just did a survey of literally everybody. We went, I don't know who asked for us to do this, but we were happy to do it. So we literally polled all of the school districts in Westchester, Rockland, Putnam, some of Dutchess, and some of Ulster. Basically, the folks who are part of the consortium at BOCES right now, and we're pretty far-reaching at this point, which is fascinating and a good thing. There is one district that buses their preschool kids. So we'll share that with you. Jane's putting the finishing touches on it. What we asked them was, do you participate in UPK? If you do you keep it in-house? Do you farm it out? Are you a hybrid like we were? And then some people said, we're going out now. Yorktown actually said to me, can you send me your RFP? So I think that they're probably considering it. There were people who said they could do it, but only outside, and no one was willing to collaborate with them. So it was a very interesting conversation.
So,
Sorry.
yeah, I just, I'm all for UPK, but I just don't feel like I have my arms around what the cost is gonna be, so I don't want
Some
to.
preliminary figures, that
We
was
did
some weeks
see,
ago.
I'm not gonna remember what they were.
Yeah.
I don't wanna lie off the top
I'm
of my
looking for it
head.
right now.
Yeah, I thought we had some questions on that, and you were gonna come back with some different numbers, right?
I think my question is,
Huh?
if you got,
Say it again.
It was 200 and something thousand out of our general fund.
Yeah,
based
yeah,
on-
for-
that
for-
sounds
for-
about right.
for
Based
how
on the
many
internal, 36,
For the
maybe
two
36.
for the two programs, the
36
two classrooms
internal
we have
seats.
now.
seats. Right, which is a little less than what we paid this past year, or about the same?
Same.
no, it's the
Yes,
same.
About the same?
Right.
But my question is, so you hit 74 in a perfect world.
Yes.
You get additional money. How much additional?
It's $10,000 a seat instead of 5,400, so an additional 46.
So that covers the entire cost of the program. What are the,
Well, I don't know that it would
No,
cover the
No,
entire
it
cost.
gives you $10,000 per
Over.
additional seat, not $10,000 for the existing seat. So you would still have to
Right.
pay, you would only get
Oh.
5,400 up to 70 seats.
Right.
And then you would get 10 grand for each seat of the thing.
Oh, okay.
And that is the way,
So it's tiered.
and Dr. Laura and I were talking earlier, that is the way they rolled out the round of funding that we received 2 years ago. So there were always districts, as you well know, around us who had pre-K.
Yeah.
In years past, the funding, you were allowed to do a half-day program. So the districts that ran the half-day program with the old money, the minute they touched the new money could only be full day. They could grandfather their half-day, but they couldn't use any of the new money on the old program. So some places have half-day with the old money that they continue to receive, and then they opened full day in order to be able to take new money and give new children opportunities. So this is the same principle. You're gonna keep the old. If you get there, we'll give you the new, but you can't mix the funds.
okay. Jen?
Is there, would there be any collaborators interested in using our space?
There are people who do that. They lease the space out for $1 and they bring people in. That, maybe that's something that we discuss.
Do you have to use that list of qualified, or can it be any?
They have to meet the requirements of the New York State program, which is, again, why many people don't jump into that fray.
But it could be an opportunity for us, like for, just say Rising Star, to grow their program within our building.
Right, because then they're not, it's
They don't have
not a
to have-
site expense, right, it's just a teacher expense for them.
And it would open up opportunity for people that don't have the appropriate facilities, but may have the staffing to be able to utilize space that's already qualified for public education, but wouldn't qualify if you were to use their own facility, which would reduce some of the expense.
There was at
I don't
least
think that's.
one, maybe 2 districts that did that. I
But
can't remember.
well, do we have the time to come to that kind of, do that research and put out, like, you need an answer now, next week?
Well, if they
So that
didn't
seems like a lot
respond-
of research project that we don't have time to do right
So
now.
if they didn't respond to the RFP, it could be any number of things, including certified staff. So remember, they're using their own staff person. If we said we have a classroom, we'll go back to Jen's example. I could call them tomorrow and say, are you interested in renting space for $1? We'll give you a classroom, and you just send us your teacher and your TA, and we get 18 more seats.
Does
So
any-
she, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry,
It's the space.
it doesn't work that way. Because nicer our insurance company would not allow.
Well, we do know districts that do that.
So districts do it, yeah. So I think before maybe let Margaret take the brain and take a look and see. Yeah, and then follow back up, and then you and Janice could decide.
To be
Okay.
very careful.
I have one other
because-
question. Okay.
Sorry, because renting it, when we rented to Posey's, and it was a regular middle school class, because Posey's is also a nicer participant, it didn't increase to anyone, because either way, anything happens, nicer has to pay. But this is outside.
Well, we should find out, right?
Yeah, and all I'm saying is, yeah, that's a good idea.
There's always a cost. You can do it. There's a cost.
So I have a
That might
question.
be less of a cost.
Would you go first, Elliot?
Well, Margaret, you're asking like, what do we, so you need us to make a decision. What I feel like I need as a trustee to make a decision is, I need to see that budget again, and then what's the per pupil expense? So divide whatever the budget is by our 36 students, and do we have any other academic or otherwise programming where we spend that much on a per pupil basis? Because that would help me compare. Like, I see UPK is making an investment in our youngest learners. Do we spend that much money per pupil anywhere else in the district already? It would be helpful for me as a trustee to make a decision.
I also
The easiest one is.
Yeah.
We do,
yeah. I knew the answer to that one.
Oh, so I would like to see that data. That would be helpful for me to make a decision.
General ed.
General ed or special ed, but yes, like.
Well, we have specialized programs through the district. We have the LTW at the high school. You know, we can certainly look and see what does it cost and how many students are enrolled. And then say to you, here's X amount, what's our per pupil spending anyway, just in general.
Yes, that would be helpful for me in decision making. Thank you.
I have one too. But go for it, Corey.
Okay, so there's one other thing I'd like to know. You know, I'm very comfortable with the job that we do internally for the 36 spots we would have here. But when you're outsourcing to other third parties, I'd like to get a sense of how we ensure the quality of those third parties. So I know they have to meet certain standards, but do we visit them on a regular basis? Do we get parent input? Like, what is the oversight that we have? Because ultimately, we're responsible for the quality of those kids' education and their care. So just getting comfort around that would help me.
So the collaborators are entitled to choose their own curriculum as long as it meets the New York State PreK standards. The collaborator we used this year did that. They have certified staff. I visit them once a month, and I try to pick different times to visit, so I see different aspects of their program. We just surveyed all of our parents, including our pre-K parents. So, you know, we are on top of that. And I said this morning to the proprietor at Aunt Bessie's, we treat all of our pre-K students as though they are Hendrick Hudson students. So we did the initial screening. We will do the end of year screening. We screened for ENL. I can't think of anything else. You know, we compared report cards to make sure we were looking at monitoring similar things. The drawback, and I said this morning as well, one of the things I heard pretty consistently from the parents who were at the collaborator this year was that they felt isolated from the program. And part of the problem with that is that, and we can't fix this, is that we don't transport. So we couldn't say, you know, come every Friday and spend the day, because all of those parents have to drive their kids to us and then bring, and not everybody can do that, because a lot of people that went there because they work and they had before and after the year. So that's a problem, and it would be, you know, it's not a problem that's easy to fix. I do know that Cindy, Dr. Kramer, and Mrs. Emanuel and Dr. Lefebvre did a pretty good job of sending out ahead of time invitations so that parents could plan. We're having Valentine's Day party, and they let them know that like weeks ahead of time. They did something, I believe, with class photos. They did a number of things to try to get folks to come and do something with them. But that, and I get it, I really do. But I will explore the rental, because there are at least 2 districts that I'm aware of, and I think Lisa knows another district that does do that. And I'll let you guys know what that looks like.
So I think, Jeremy, you had a question before? Yep.
Do any districts in Westchester, I don't know that I know the answer, so I'm asking it, it's not a, does anyone else in Westchester County support an in-house UPK program through their general fund? Like Ossining has in-house UPK, but it's 100% paid for by the state. They're not limited to the $5,400 a seat or whatever, because it was existed before. What districts, if any, pay for UPK in-house out of the general fund?
I would say that with the exception of districts like Peekskill, Ossining, perhaps Mount Vernon, who get a lot of different grant money, Yonkers, every district does, because $5,400 per student is never going to cover your
But
program.
every district doesn't have in-house UPK. Like Croton doesn't offer it in-house, so they don't
They
support
do
it
now.
through their general
Lakeland
fund.
does it in-house. I'm sure that they do. Off the top of my head, I'm not
There's a
remember
form,
how
right?
much.
BOCES has, can we ask BOCES? Because isn't there a form where you submit whether you support your in-house UPK through the general fund?
I don't know, but we asked who has it, and I can pretty much tell you that if they have it, it is not, no, I don't think anybody is adding to the pot. I think there was one district that added to the $5,400. Everybody else, it just passes it through. If you want to collaborate with us.
No, I'm not asking for collaboration.
No,
I'm asking-
so internally, again, if you look at what it's costing us,
So who has it in-house though? That's my question.
I
You know?
can't remember off the top of my head. I know Lakeland only because I have children there.
If we could find that out, I think
Yeah,
it would also be
sure,
helpful,
that was my
because I want to know if everybody has it and we don't, we're behind the curve. If nobody has it and we do, and it's a lottery, it could be an attractive piece, or it could not be, because people don't care if it's only a lottery, they're not gonna move somewhere and then not get it either.
Right.
I'd like
Yep.
to get a little better bearing on what it looks like and how it helps us compete as a destination district to our
Sure.
peers.
Well, I think it's fair to say that by next week, we will make a decision on this topic. You know what we need, Dr. Laura knows what I'm sorry? The next meeting? Yeah, the next meeting on the 8th. Hopefully we have all the work that we need in place, so that we can make decisions and keep this moving on.
One thing, Margaret, is when you bring back names of districts that have it, don't have it, can you tell us half day, full day?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
And
'cause
they've actually said it themselves.
Perfect, yeah.
Alright, great. We have the budget update under superintendent's report. Sorry, I think we have to do that too. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. Typically, we try to do our audience comments right away, but we wanted to make sure that Dr. Laura got to speak before we got started. And then I realized we had all these items under superintendent's report. So thank you for your patience. All right, Enrique is going to do a budget update real quick.
Good evening, everyone. Quick budget update. We haven't had one since our first meeting. So let's start with the good news. The good news is that the state paid increased $232,000 from the legislator to the governor's budget. TRS, originally they told us that it was going to be between 9.5 and 10.29. We got it at 10.29, but it came out at 9.76. That's another decrease of $255,000. Then we had 3 teachers in elementary school retiring. If those teachers get replaced, then we're going to save $277,000. If they don't get replaced, we will get an additional $279,000 on top of the $277,000. And then finally, we got one teacher retiring in the middle school that we need to replace. That teacher was a little bit young. So we're only saving $42,000. Back in January, we presented a budget that would be between 88.1 and 88.5 million. Today, our budget is expected to be around 88 to 88.4. Last year, the budget was 86.6. So in January, we were expecting the budget to be an increase of between 1.7 and 2.2. in March. Now we are expected to be an increase of between 1.6 and 2%. The preliminary tax levy is still a moving target. Back in January, we thought it was going to be between 2.3 and 3%. Now needs to go between 1.6 and 2.4. But after some discussions with Dennis, that can come down a little bit more. So stay tuned, because the good news might still happen in the next couple of weeks. So Dennis, your salary will be paid by not by the not by the community, but by this. Thank you, Dennis. So finally, preliminary budget. Our state aid increased about 53%, and that for two reasons. Reason number one is because all the districts in the state of New York are getting back foundation aid that was taken back in 2010, 2011. And number two, because our wealth ratio decreased because of the closure of Indian Point. BOCES aid, as everyone knows, is based on how much money we spend with BOCES, and we're increasing that on a yearly basis. Other income represents tuition for special ed, interest income. Interest income is gone up substantially. Today we invested $7 million for 3 months at 4.5%. Last year it would have been at about 0.25%. So we're doing well there. Our pilots, I'm taking into account that hopefully we pay us at least the same amount as last year. We're expecting more, a lot more, but we need to be a little bit conservative. And the cessation fund is the second year. And as you remember, every year it increases 10%. So the cessation fund will be $12 million compared to 14. That gives us non-property tax revenues of $37.2 million, with a proposed budget of $88 million. That means that our tax levy will be about 50.7, which is an increase of 1.6%. The tax cap, our tax cap will increase 20%. So last year, because of the pilots, it went up substantially to $61 million. Today, it's only $49 million. So if we have to go to contingent budget, we will have to cut $792,000. I just like to put that in the presentation. I know it won't happen, and it has never happened since I've been here. So that's it. I thank you again to our high school and middle school art students.
Yeah,
And any questions, please?
so go back to budget update slide if you could. So 3 teachers in elementary schools retire. So I just want to make sure it's clear. So current grade banding model, if we didn't change this, would be a savings of $556,000. And any changes would be a possible reduction to that savings?
Not exactly. I still haven't gotten the number of teachers in elementary school. Margaret will present next week. So that's why I like to do it like that. If we need to replace them because we need teachers, then you have the number. If we don't, then you have the other number. So I didn't want to say one number or the other one until we have the final count of elementary school teachers. If we don't have to replace them, it's about 577,000. If we have to replace them, it will be only 277.
So just savings there.
But we'll have the answer next week.
Yeah.
That's, all of the decisions we're making are affecting all this, so we're just giving you a range right now.
Any questions for Enrique? Questions? Thank you. All right, thank you, Enrique. Thank you. All right. Again, thank you guys for waiting patiently. Now we are at our audience comments for non-agenda items. Carmen is going to call each speaker up by name. I'm sure many of you have heard this before, but we allot 15 minutes for public comments. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes each. We ask that you step up to the podium and share your name with the board. Please be respectful. Please know that we can't address anybody in the room or district personnel, and keep to the 3 minutes so that we can keep the meeting moving along. Carmen, who do we have first?
Our first speaker is Dan Gillenko.
All right, thank you. Thank you for having me out here. Good to be with you, Dr. Laura. Congratulations on your appointment. I guess that's a direct address, but sorry for that.
That's okay.
I'm here to speak about Indian Point. I guess first I'll say that if you're able to bring the community together on a Princeton Plan solution, Nobel Peace Prize, I'll be the first to nominate. But even if you get that done, I'm still going to have more expectations for you on the safety of our community. I do appreciate really your comments on having independent monitoring that is not subject to the state or anybody else and is for us to rely on. And part of the reason I want to deliver that is because I have a bit of a depressing message, and it's that I really feel we're on our own for protecting our safety. And it's really up to us as, a local community to be able to do it. If you look across the board, the politicians want to redevelop the site. That's a, conflict of interest. The regulators are very close to those they regulate. Notoriously the case with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Again, it's very hard to rely on external parties that are, not happy rustling feathers or otherwise. So we do want to be self-reliant. And there's some really good recent examples of why we need to be self-reliant when we're thinking about the safety, and particularly given the proximity of our schools to this demolition process. And it's a broader community concern. But, recently the natural gas pipeline had a giant sinkhole under it. There's not much explanation of why that happened or why it couldn't happen right next to our schools. It's sort of up to us to be overseeing them and asking the right questions. We need to ask difficult questions of these companies. I was at one of the recent Decommissioning Oversight Board meetings, which you'll now be a member of. And I talked to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission representative one-to-one after the meeting, and he told me he'd be comfortable drinking tritiated water in a direct conversation. I couldn't believe it. I still can't believe it. It was a few months ago. That's not the person I trust to look out for the safety of the kids. He doesn't live in this community. So we really need to look out for ourselves. And then the last thing is, just a couple weeks ago was reported in, the local papers in Cape Cod about the Pilgrim facility that they found cesium-137 on the roof in sediment. And so Holtec says it was from the nuclear fallout from testing or from Chernobyl. I wonder, Nuclear Regulatory Commission actually questions that based on reporting in the article. The last thing I want is for 2 years from now to find out that something happened today that we didn't know about for 2 years. That's the nightmare scenario for this community. And I think we're sort of on our own to be asking the right questions, be very skeptical of everything people are telling us, and look out for ourselves. So again, welcome. It's a big challenge. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Victoria Rial.
Hello. I'm here to speak about the Princeton Plan. Some proponents of the Princeton Plan claim that it promotes diversity. However, after reviewing demographics, it would appear that 66% of classes have 0 E&L children in them. Over 50% of the 4th and 5th grade classes have no exposure to E&L students at all. A minority of classes have E&L children, and where they do, there is a heavy concentration without the requisite resources to ensure a proper learning environment for both the E&L and non-E&L children. One proponent of this plan has expressed relief to have more diversity for her child now. However, ironically, the school her child attends is now less diverse than before. That particular school went from 9% African American to 7% after the Princeton plan was implemented. In terms of the preparation for this plan, it was thoughtless as can be. Nothing has been done to the infrastructure to accommodate it. New York State has specific requirements for kindergarten bathrooms that are no longer being met since migration to this plan. Most kindergarten classrooms are not retrofitted with bathrooms, nor are hallway bathrooms with toilets of requisite heights. As a result, a considerable amount of learning time is lost as children go back and forth to bathrooms outside of their classrooms, using the buddy system, and using toilets that are designed for older kids. This inefficiency is not only against New York State planning standards, it has resulted in lost learning time for our children and educators. Furthermore, this inefficiency is causing major complications such as our youngest learners getting locked in stalls and requiring teachers to leave the classroom to rescue them. This inefficiency also leaves our youngest children more vulnerable. Proper lockdown practices in the event of an intruder cannot be followed with our youngest children regularly in and out of classrooms while roaming the halls. School shootings have become more prevalent of the late, and this is a major concern of mine and should be to any parent. We should have armed security at our schools. Thank you for your time.
The speaker is Michelle Verma.
Welcome to Hen Hud, Dr. Laura.
Thank you.
3 generations of my family are Hen Hud grads. 2 generations of us still live here. I would like for all of us to continue living here. I'm here tonight to talk to you about Indian Point, and the reason for that is because I want to convey to you the urgency of the issue that we're facing right now, and also the gravity, and to urge you to rely on the resident experts in our community, specifically Dr. Williams, who have been knee-deep in this issue since it began. Her depth of knowledge and understanding, both as a resident, as a parent, and as a scientist, is something that we could not afford to buy. And I hope that you would rely on that because she is an incredible resource for us. One of the issues that we're facing is that Holtec as a company is untested. They have not decommissioned other plants before. They got the license to do this because they partnered with another company. That other company has left. So now Holtec is on their own. If you research them, you'll see that there are documented incidences of safety concerns and allegations of bribery and unethical practices. I was relieved to hear you mention air monitoring. However, it's a little bit late. Holtec announced last week that they had already completed packaging spent fuel. So any monitoring done now is wonderful, but we're already late to the game, and that's why I'm here to convey the urgency to you. You're only here for a short time, but unfortunately we need you to do a lot for us in that short time. On March 9th, 2020, which if you recall is a couple days before the world shut down, the Office of the Inspector General of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission released a report on the pipeline approval process. In that report, they questioned every single safety assessment that was conducted on that pipeline. In fact, they even said that one of the tests that was documented in that report was, quote, reverse engineered in order to achieve a specific outcome. The safety concerns here are tremendous. This is a community that has felt like it hasn't had a voice in the shutdown of the plant and the decommissioning of the plant and in the power of our representatives to do anything for us. We need oversight and we need a voice, and we are begging for it to be used. Thank you.
Next speaker is Mike Dominguez.
Good evening, board, and good evening, Dr. Laura. Thank you for joining us. I gotta be honest, you probably told us more in the last 20 minutes than a lot of us here have probably got in the last 2 years, so I appreciate that. So I'm gonna read what I wrote. As you already know, the district has been under turmoil since the implementation of the Princeton plan. So your arrival and a bipartisan approach has been something many residents have been longing for from our leadership. The implementation of the Princeton plan was not created from a neutral mindset from a mindset of someone trying to force a square peg into a round hole. The community wasn't able to give creative feedback, nor were our suggestions taken into account before the implementation was forced upon us. When the Princeton plan was being talked about as a cost-saving initiative, many residents had questioned how it would actually save money when it was being laid out. The district also hired a consultant firm to do a study, and the consultant firm agreed that this particular model was the least desirable model for the district and would bring the most hindrance to the community. They cited concerns such as general logistic issues, increased transitions for students, complicated logistics for transportation and parent pickups, increased travel time for parents with multiple children, larger class sizes across the board for all 3 schools, and teachers not being able to communicate with each other about particular students because they'll consistently be moving from building to building. The report also stated that the status quo option would be favored over all explored options in the report, although they did note that it would be zero net cost savings. But they also stated the grade centering model, or Princeton plan options, would bring significant change to the neighborhood school concept, which has been embraced by residents in the district from their research. Well, we have come to learn that this plan that we have selected has not been saving district money as was promised from the previous superintendent, and more than likely may end up actually costing us more if things are not changed. On 2/1, the district had a forum where many parents spoke out about their displeasures of the Princeton plan, and at that point asked the board to start working towards gathering facts and finding a way to revert course for the following school year. Since then, the school's leadership has found every way possible to prolong the truth from getting out to the residents, which I believe with the proper research was not completed prior to the rush implementation, resulting in a major failure financially and logistically. I know that you have your hands full walking into all of this, but take the emotion out of it and just focus on the facts. To continue down the road knowing that the plan is currently not doing what it was intended to do, according to the old superintendent, which was a cost savings initiative, and in his own words, has no impact on student achievement, is not designed to help educational deficiencies or improve student test scores, and does not create equality amongst the schools, I don't know why we would continue down that road. But please look at the facts yourself, and thank you, and good luck. Thank you.
Next speaker is Tim Casey.
Good evening, board. Thank you again for the time. I did write something down, but after Dr. Laurel's speech, I feel it's not necessary to read. I'll just say a few things. First, Dr. Laurel, thank you for being here. Thank you for accepting the position. Your wisdom and experience and leadership is truly needed right now. I am someone, like a lot of others, who are opposed to the Princeton plan. Not a fan of it when it was implemented. Don't think it's right for this community. My son is someone who will have to be on the bus for 30 to 40 minutes each day in the morning, and that's troubling to me. I saw a bus on Watch Hill broke down this morning. What if he was on that bus? That adds probably 15, 20 minutes at least. That to me is unacceptable when there's an elementary school down the street. If what the district is trying to accomplish is equity, true equity, that's fine, and I'm all in. I'll back that 100% and help come up with ideas. But what happened a few years ago was the previous board took advantage of a situation with Indian Point closing. Now this isn't new, the Princeton plan to our district. It's been voted on before, it's been shot down for good reason. But they took advantage of the Indian Point closing when we had a big hole in the budget, and if we have to do something now, doing nothing was not an option. But what we should have done is taken a little bit more time, gone through the different options, and really come up with a plan that make this district better. One that could potentially save costs and improve equity, improve the education. Look, it's a reality. Cost is going to go up in this district, okay? We're not going to erase it. Nobody's naive enough to think that at some point this isn't going to impact us financially. But when it does impact us financially, it should be for the good reasons, okay? If it is necessary building improvements, if it's improving the curriculum or certain programs that we need for kids, not to fix problems like we're doing now, like fixing the transportation issue, which is a problem that we created, okay? If we just chase our tail and create problems and then fix them, we're not actually accomplishing anything for our students, all right? So I said what I had to say. I'll do 1 minute. I'll just will say quickly what Dan said and what Michelle said. There are 2 resources, Ms. Courtney Williams, those are people you should be listening to. when it comes to the Indian Point decommissioning. So please hear what they say. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Christina Duffy.
Carmen, we've approached our 15 minutes. I'd like to make a motion to extend our public comment period.
All in favor?
Carmen, how many speakers do we have total? Christina, you can come on up.
12 total.
The adoption of Princeton Plan is not the single most important issue facing the community or the district. The implementation and the views of the pros and cons of the district's new policy are just distracting us from the safety issues that could plague our district for years to come. The Princeton Plan was supposed to solve financial impacts after Indian Point was placed offline. It did not. As recent information forecasting has shown, the diametric opposite is true and the plan is a financial disaster. As stated by administrators, Princeton Plan has no academic benefit, it does not bridge any gaps, and it does nothing to address the safety of our students and children. If we're treating our children as lab experiments, what are the key outcomes and performance indicators being captured by the district? How are we measuring the plan's success and unearthing opportunities to improve the district's operations? Has anyone from either side of the argument seen any of these? Rather than dividing us, perhaps we should focus on something that can unify us all, the safety of our kids. There are ongoing active forum discussions within the community surrounding health and safety effects of decommissioning on developing children, where experts in the medical field unanimously determined the best course of action is to close the school. Both proponents and opponents of Princeton Plan have united in believing BB should be shut down. Why? At the Pilgrim plant in Plymouth, Massachusetts, workers were exposed to radiation due to a mistake by Holtec. It took more than 3 years for that information to be released to the public. Is anyone here comfortable with this? So we would not learn about a mistake that happens today until 2026, and by then it would be too late to do anything. Holtec now controls a decommissioning fund north of $2.5 billion. Do you think this school district or community stands a chance against that type of war chest in court? Holtec stated in the last DOB meeting that they could dump 1 million gallons of tritium-laced water into the Hudson at a moment's notice. They are under no legal obligation to let anyone know. They agreed to tell Riverkeeper 1 month prior, but that is not at all binding. The new bill in the legislature lacks any teeth. $25,000 fine a day for dumping water. It would take Holtec 1 day to do it, so why not just pay the $25,000 as the cost of doing business? That is 1/1000th of 1% of their decommissioning fund, and now the problem's solved. The window for bargaining is passed. Our only real recourse is to close the school to children during decommissioning, which will in turn allow the surrounding community better access to services on the single road, one-way evacuation route in the event of an emergency. The school district needs to close this school and divide the students between Furnace Woods and Frank G. Lindsay, and with the savings of the closure, invest in the other schools in an interim plan that ensures access to quality education for every student. With what we have learned, it makes more sense for the district to open up the admin building and move the admin activities and offices to BP. Let the adults who have more choice work in that building near the decommissioning nuclear power plant, run by a company with a track record of safety violations, instead of the children in the district who do not have a choice and who must attend BB equally. As long as it's equitable and until immediate plan is implemented, our children will receive equal exposure to radiological releases and not find out until it's too late. Do something now. Our children matter.
Bill Wallace.
Hello. Hello. Welcome. Glad to have you. You walked into a buzzsaw. Something tells me you're going to handle this. Look, I have prepared remarks. I thought about this for a while. You know, everybody who went already stole my thunder. You've heard all about, you know, this, that, and the other things. So I'm going to say, simple question. Facts. That's all that matters here is facts. It's a math problem. That's what this is. It's a math problem. It's not about anything more than a math problem. It was sold to the district as savings. It's not. It's not even close. The numbers have been run. Okay? It's not. It's a math problem. This is just, and the question I have is, why can't we go back to what we had already and then figure it out? This was so poorly thought out and voted on in the cover of night under COVID and all that stuff. Why can't we just go, these remarks are garbage. Why can't we just go back to where we were? Okay? And start over. It's a do-over. Sometimes you play golf, it's a mulligan. Why don't we do that instead of sitting here and trying to figure out, oh, we'll do, you know, a compromise. there shouldn't be a compromise because there's no savings. So that's the first thing. And the second thing, and when I said earlier, deal in fact, I know for sure, not maybe, I know for sure, there are people who are getting up here, and Doctor, you said this earlier, you know, is this DEI? Which is wonderful, because me, honestly, as a short guy, I know people judge me. I get it. I've been in business for 30 years. It's not my first rodeo. I know that. But it was never sold as DEI. It was sold as savings. So if we roll it back and go back to where we were and think about it and then rejigger it and maybe roll it out again, maybe that works, but right now, this ain't working. So, you know, and I know there's people that are gonna come up here and they're gonna tell the sob story of, oh, I heard someone say this and somebody said that, hurt someone's feelings. I've had my feelings hurt, I get it, okay? I've been called everything in the book. It's not about that. It's about the community. It's about the children. Put them first. That's who matters most. We have an obligation as a parent to fight like hell for our kids, to make sure my daughter isn't crying, getting on a, almost said a bad word, getting on a bus because she doesn't want to take a 37-minute bus ride. That's not cool. That's not the way this should work. This should work where the kids come first and the money comes second. That's what this is about. So I appreciate y'all listening to me. I said y'all. I appreciate everybody listening to me. You know, thank you. This board is fantastic. You guys and gals and folks have really turned the tide here, and I appreciate it because we weren't listened to. And to Frank, what he said earlier, Doctor, we learned more in your tenure than we learned in 2 years. Thank you so much.
Speaker Sarah Holman. Leah Burrows.
This past Friday, I met with a homeowner interested in selling. They moved here in 2020 and have 4 kids. They were shocked to find out about Princeton Plan after moving here, which would not work logistically for their family. You see, they thought they were purchasing a house a couple of minutes from the elementary school their child would attend. And their story is not unique. 30 children were pulled out of the district this year for similar reasons, and many more, maybe even my own, will be pulled out next if things do not turn around. The Princeton Plan we have discovered is not saving money, is unideal academically, is not equitable, and is a transportation nightmare, and has also torn the district apart. Almost all proponents of Princeton Plan center their argument around the same crux, one underperforming school. But instead of fixing the issues at hand, they rely on Princeton Plan to band-aid them by shifting around principals and grades. It's asinine to think that that is a solution. At best, it is masking the issue, and at worst, it is spreading the problem to other areas of the district. Some proponents of grade banding have given their argument the patina of equity. To quote one Facebook parent, BV has a heavy load of E&L students. With Princeton Plan, the resources can be restructured, so the burden is not on one school and affecting the non-E&L students unequitably. This sentiment reflects not only what they really mean by equity, but the failure of this district to provide adequate resources. Dispersing E&L children from one school and moving them throughout the district will not solve this problem, but rather exacerbate it for these children while creating a slower pace of learning for others. Princeton Plan has cost the district substantially in terms of transportation costs, and that is money better invested in educational resources and tools to help both E&L and non-E&L children that have been left behind by the fiscal irresponsibility of this district. Furthermore, have there been any consideration of what E&L families have endured this year? I've noticed that those in support of uniting families at the border are quite sanguine about tearing them apart with this plan. Just so there's no ambiguity, I do not believe in compromise or middle ground. The data is out there and it's clear this plan should never have been adopted. I will not compromise with people whose arguments are not rooted in data and facts. We do not placate people who are ill-informed or have ulterior motives. My children would love nothing more than to eat candy bars for breakfast every day. Should I compromise with them on that front? It's the board's responsibility to do that which is right for the district, not which is popular. I will conclude by saying, once and for all, that those without children directly affected by this plan are weighing in without personal consequence to themselves or their family. Their only stake is financial as taxpayers, and it's clear that this plan is costly, So I'm not sure what dog they have in this fight, and I find their motives questionable. Thank you.
Thank you.
President Irwin.
Welcome, Dr. Lauro. Thank you for stepping into the role of superintendent at this critical time for our community. I'd like to bring to the attention of the board and administration, again, the current risk present at BV Elementary School. Our school's cafeteria is 400 feet from a 42-inch gas pipeline, the largest size in use. In other states, pipelines carrying volatile materials are not zoned to be within 1,000 feet of schools and other hard-to-evacuate facilities such as nursing homes and hospitals. This June, our district has scheduled reconstruction of this school's cafeteria to begin. Community members such as myself are asking to halt this planned construction as this activity, along with the planned demolition of the reactor towers of Indian Point 4,000 feet away from our school, can impact soil stability around the pipeline, specifically soil near shorelines, inland waterways. A 30 feet deep, 10 feet wide sinkhole developed along this pipeline in Yorktown Heights. It was discovered December 24th, 2022 by a resident walking their dog, not a pipeline inspector. These construction and demo activities increase the risk of a pipeline rupture and sinkholes near our school, specifically the playground and cafeteria. Our nuclear power plant is the only facility in the country that was allowed to have multiple gas pipelines built beneath it. This co-risk is amplified by the pipeline's age and noted failures along it, as well as its 400-foot proximity to our school. The cafeteria is the current shelter-in-place location for the school. If it is unavailable due to remodeling, many of us feel the library is an inadequate alternative. There are windows to the outside, there are windows to the hallway, and these windows in place are not blast resistant. A realistic evacuation plan does not exist for the co-risk of the pipeline rupture during demolition of a nuclear power plant at BV Elementary. I advocate for the closure of BV Elementary to protect the surrounding residents that live nearest to the site. Removing the 500 children plus staff attending the school allows first responders to care for nearby residents directly if there would be an emergency. There is one road in and there are no sidewalks near the school. OSHA and PESH exist for the safety of employees, but there's a vacuum when it comes to the health and safety protection of children. I publicly ask that you defer your seat on the Decommissioning Oversight Board to someone experienced with these issues. With the division in the community over the implementation of grade banding and the many problems to solve there's simply not enough time for you to advocate for our safety through that board. Local environmental justice advocate Dr. Courtney Williams is extremely knowledgeable of the risks inherent to the Indian Point Energy Center's decommissioning and has been a leader and educator on the subject for many years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Shannon Silva.
I'm going to keep this really short and sweet. I signed up tonight and I had 2 questions, and one of which you already answered. Thank you for clarifying that we're not going back to K-5. Totally appreciate that. Still would love to know where we're going to be in 6 months. But I totally get that. And if, we just teachers deserve that, the kids deserve that, where are we going to be? My second question is, there is a video going around. I don't have time to fact check. I don't want to say it's propaganda. It's being declared as facts. If somebody from the school could just go through those numbers and get back to the public and say, hey, this is true, these numbers are right, I think that it would put a lot of things at bay. I mean, there's people literally hitting the pavement and throwing flyers in people's mailboxes. So if that information is not correct, I think the school has a responsibility to tell the community.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Michelle McGoville.
Oh, that one was the tax statement.
There's a
Yes.
QR code.
Yes, I have it here. The one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the
Sorry.
No, that's okay. This is sort of impromptu, so please.
That's okay. Go ahead.
I had a letter that I was contemplating reading, but it's really everything that I've said so many times, just how I'm a big fan of the Princeton plan, because I think there's a lot of social, emotional, and educational opportunities within it. I hadn't signed up to say anything, but a lot of the comments made me realize I needed to. First, let me address, we're looking to reorganize our district for generations to come. This isn't a discussion for only elementary school parents. Would you readjust the plan annually because there are new families in the mix? No. This is something that impacts everyone. And families that don't have children in elementary school, such as myself, have actually experienced the bias because it is there. There is true bias. There is a bias, associated with one school over not the others. There's an us versus them attitude that actually exists in this school. And this is not the first time it's been addressed. I know we keep talking about finances, but it's been addressed for many years, not because of finances. It's been addressed because there is an inequity in our system, and there is a bias in our system. It's an ugly undercurrent that no one wants to speak up about.
Not true.
It is there. It needs to change. I have seen it firsthand. I've been the recipient of it. Friends of mine have. So to say it's not true because you're concerned about long bus rides, if you change it and do 2 schools that are K-3, the kids that are going to have to move to deal with enrollment issues and to make sure that you have equitable class sizes are the ones that are in BV. They're going to be the ones that travel to Furnace Woods. It's not going to be the other way around if you do 2 K-3. So these are things that do need to be addressed. And, and financially, a lot of people talk about finances. A lot of the savings this year were actually reinvested. PK, a bigger STEM program, smaller class sizes without needing to hire additional teachers. Those are real, actual costs. So those things all need to be considered. And if you want to actually look at what it cost us, you should do an itemized list of what it actually cost us. Because I think you're going to find there are a lot of efficiencies from the Princeton Plan model that will just continue and will offer us the opportunity to have educational opportunities for all the children, not just one school over another. So as a mom of 4, none in elementary school, thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Now we are to our consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? So moved. Second. All in favor? So we're like the resolution. Okay, we're going to get to our program budget presentation on transportation, presented by Ms. Liz Villio. Give everybody a minute, please.
Dr. Laurel, members of the board. We'll go through my budget and my continuing initiatives that we have is to improve route efficiency and to better serve the students. This plan's been an ongoing initiative since the grade banding plan was first approved. We know that there's improvements we have to make. I've already met with Dr. Laurel, and Kathy and I have our work cut out for us. But better to us do it because no one knows the district better than we do. Okay? We continue to work with athletics to reduce overtime and spending for sports, and we continue to utilize shared services. We've partnered with other districts that have children that attend out of district schools, and we do some ride share with them. Okay, some of our enhancements we have in student safety for this on the bus this year. We continue to utilize a web-based program for our transportation buildings and grounds personnel. It's the same program, GCN program that the teachers also use and everyone else in the district. This year in February, when we did our New York State required refresher, we also had our representatives from Altaris come in, and we did a number of tabletop exercises with the drivers as far as, you know, when you pull up to a school and the light's flashing on the outside of the building, what are you gonna do, where are you gonna go? You know, what decisions are you gonna make? You pull up in front of the school and the kids are pouring out of the building, and what are you gonna do? You know, load those kids on the bus, get out of here, where are you going with them? Okay, we wanna make sure that our drivers feel comfortable and are empowered to make those decisions on their own without having to, you know, ask for permission to do things. Okay, we received delivery on 2 72-passenger Type D buses. Finally, we got them in January. We ordered them in right after the budget was passed in May. So it took quite a while. There's a lot of backlog in the receipt of vehicles. We completed installation of the new lifts at the bus garage, and that was something that was in our ban 2 budgets ago. We finally, you know, got all the equipment we needed to get that installed, and finally we're done. The project is finished. We did originally want to put 2 lifts in, but because of increased cost, we were able to only put 1 lift in. So, you know, that was a big hit for us. We really wanted to get that second side completed, but right now we're able to work with what we have, and we're able to get the jobs done. Okay, we also installed external stop arm cameras. We joined as a pilot program with Bus Patrol, and I know you guys have seen me, you know, on TV, and apparently I was on TV in Rockland County this morning. And we did that to collect data for Westchester County so that they can see that this is a problem. In this community, it's a problem in Westchester. It's a problem in New York State. In New York State, 50,000 buses are passed a day. 50,000 school bus passes a day, right? So we're trying to get Westchester on board, and we're still pushing. I know that a number of the superintendents, including Mr. Hochreiter, had sent a letter to Mr. Latimer's office. We're still pushing. Okay, so we're still trying to get through with that. Okay, we can go through my line-by-line items. So my district transportation, non-instructional salaries, that's an increase of 140,910, and that represents 4 halves of employees. So Anthony and I share, Buildings and Grounds and I share our employees, so half the expenses in Anthony's budget and half the expenses in my budget. So that's where that 140,910 comes from, and that's a 9.1% increase. My non-instructional chauffeurs line, that's an increase of 5547. That's a 1% increase. And that covers their raise based on the CSEA contract. My chauffeurs in the handicap line also, that's an increase of $6,867, also a 1% increase. Non-instructional overtime, that's $1,788, also 1%. Field trips, we increased a little bit because of the grade banding model and, you know, more field trips going on. You know, we increased that by $1,200, so that's a 4.6% increase. And our sports, we increased by $2,000, and merely to cover the increase in the CSEA contract. Okay, my equipment line stays the same. My contractual expenditures is increased by $5,000. I'm seeing increases in my rental for our 2-way radios on the buses, and also some of our other little things that we have contractual contractors with. Right, that's a 3.2% increase. Materials and supplies, that's the line that I pay for all the parts to repair the buses. And that increased by $9,500. I find myself having to continue to move money into that budget line. So I increased it by that $9,500 in the hopes that I don't have to do a number of budget transfers in order to meet the needs of the repairs. So that's a 10% increase there. Gas and diesel, right now we're paying about $2.59 a gallon still for diesel, and our gas prices are about $2.47, I think. I just looked at the bill today because I was just doing fuel billing. So without factoring in the new buses that I'm asking to purchase and changing around some of the Princeton plan, we're looking at an increase of $8,989, and that's a 3.2% increase. Lubrication and oil, that's a $500 increase. That's only seen a slight raise in pricing. Tires and chains, that's an additional $5,500, which is 18.6%. Our insurance, so NYSER is telling us that we should look for about 11 or 12% increase, so that's why you're seeing those numbers there. So it's increasing by $5,368, which is an 11% increase. And then our umbrella excess liability is another $3,032, so that's a 12% increase. Okay, bus garage equipment, it's a $3,000 increase. We have to purchase a new system that reads the computers on the buses. Everything's now computerized, including our buses. So like, when you go with your car and you go to the dealer, they can plug it in. We do the same thing with the buses, and it gives us a reading as to where we're having issues. So that's a 12% increase in that line. Our garage contractual stays the same. Utility, our oil is the same, water stays the same, electricity is a big increase. I didn't have enough money in my budget to really cover the electricity use at the bus garage, so we had to increase by that. And Anthony did say that he's seeing a big increase there, so that's why that's a 20% increase. Okay, our property and general liability insurance, it's a $291 increase, so that, two is 12%. And then materials and supplies at the garage is $273, and we use that line to purchase some of the office equipment that's in the garage, but also for purchasing, some of the harnesses and safety seats that our special ed children use. Okay, so my numbers on the bottom are a little skewed, and I apologize for that. The second column for 23-24, it should be 4046826. Apparently I transposed my numbers, and I apologize. The increase is 198,659, so it's a 5.1% increase. So those were right, but I transposed my numbers, and I apologize for that. I'm requesting for a vehicle proposition to purchase 2 Type B diesel-powered buses as per the established vehicle replacement plan. I'm asking for Type B because there's a delay in the reception of our Type D, which is usually what we purchase most often, which is the transit-style buses. If we were to try to purchase those, we wouldn't get delivery until January of 2025. So that would do us no good.
Can you quickly just, because I don't
Sure.
know what the difference is?
So the Type B is the conventional, which is the engine in the front, and the Type D is the transit style, the pusher, and the engine's in the rear. It's also a difference in cost. So this bus is about $30,000 less than the other bicycles. So if we based on a 3.5% interest rate on the ban, it would be a yearly cost of $52,717. And then it's over 7 years. The ban is 5 years, but we carry it out to 7 years because we use the buses that long. Okay. So my last part of my budget is the grade banding, the potential additional costs. If we stay in the current model, then we would need 7 monitors to add to the K1 buses. We've got an agreement with CSEA to use monitors for 3 months. I based it on the CSEA hourly rate for the chauffeurs, which is $27.31 an hour. We're looking though to use TAMA members to do this, and I know that Mr. Hochreiter had met with TAMA and had this discussion. I don't know how far that is, nor do I know who's interested in that. So that's where this number, this $26,763. So it's 7 monitors times 2 hours times 70 days, which would be the first 3 months of school. Okay, we would also need to purchase 2 additional buses. So that too would be the cost of $161,331 per vehicle. The ban would be for the 332,664. We would assume an interest rate of 3.5%, and so it would cost us 52,717 per year over 5 years, and then we would extend out to the 7 years. Additional fuel, based on our current fuel costs, it would be an additional $10,339 for fuel for those buses. And we're assuming, based on what our current routes are, and that we would drive an additional 14,400 miles. So that's where we came up with that 10,000. Okay, and then the additional vehicle cost would be for maintenance and repairs and tires, and the 91 cents represents, the mechanics' hourly rate, and everything is all factored into that, and that's where that 91 cents came from, times the 14,400 miles, comes to 13,104, for a total of 100,223 per year.
Yeah, I think that's.
Okay, so two questions, one for you, Liz, and one for me. So the first is, just to understand, so 102,000 per year, would this get this down to where the students would not be on the bus for more than a half hour? Would this fix our transportation problem, $102,000 a year?
I can't say that until I go through all the routes.
You're the expert.
Well,
right? You're saying grade banding potential additional costs.
Right, because we would have,
This is
right, because
assuming.
I'm looking at if we stay in the current model, that I would have to add buses to each school.
Right, so, and that's what this is for, correct?
Correct.
You wouldn't need more buses than this, than you're asking for here in the additional grade banding.
Well, I'm asking for the 2 in the grade banding, I'm asking for 2 for the replacement.
Correct, but we need the 2 for the replacement anyway.
Correct.
Right, so it's just an additional 2.
Correct.
So Enrique, to you, the question is, 102,000 per year is 0.2% in tax levy. Is that correct? To fix our transportation issue.
This is improved. I wouldn't put Liz in a position where she's saying it's fixed. This is to make improvements. She has to go.
This was presented
Right.
as the worst
This
case
is-
scenario.
This is,
That's what we said in finance.
Well, she didn't
is-
say that it would decrease bus times or solve anyone's thing.
This was to fix.
But what's the definition of fix?
To get it back to where it was.
to reduce the bus.
That's
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 not
what
what I
they-
heard in
that's
finance,
absolutely
that
what I
was
heard.
to get it
She
back
actually
where it
thought-
was.
I can't promise you that kids are gonna be on a bus for 17 minutes like they were last year. I can't promise you that.
Would it be 20? I mean,
I don't know until I have to pull apart every single route and reroute every single child.
but that's what we need in this slide, right? We need in this slide, what is it gonna take to get transportation to where we need to be in the current model?
I think that what this is gonna do is it's gonna get transportation back to a more palatable place.
That's what I'm asking. So
That's what it's gonna do.
So does it fix, if we're talking about 0.2% in tax levy, it's right, 20%, $500,000 is 1% in tax levy. This is 1/5 of that, so it's 20% of 1%, 0.2% in tax levy.
Corey, I don't think
To fix
we
transportation.
didn't tell her to go to town and make it the 17 minutes that it was and make it equal. We said, how do you help? How do you help the problem? I don't want to speak for you,
But
right?
it's palatable, so what would it be to get it to where we want it to be?
What I have, when I talked with finance and what I have spoken to Dr. Lauro about was that it's important for me, because I had a hard time understanding what was given to me to do, all right, for this school year. So they had a consultant come, the district hired a consultant, the routes were made. So for me, looking at the routes, it didn't make sense as to why children are going on a tour of the district to get home every day.
Right.
So
Which is
my
all our
my feeling is that we would regionalize the routes. So I have children at a BV school that need to go out to Furnace Woods, so we would put them on buses to express them, rather than going through, a number of the communities to get to there.
Yep.
So that's what my plan is. So Kathy and I my secretary and I had a long conversation about it today, and that is absolutely what, honestly, we're starting tomorrow.
So if that's the case, right, I would love to know how much more it would be than $102,000 per year to get to where we want to be in transportation. And then I would love to balance that against what the cost would be to move to a different model. Right?
But also be.
0.2%.
Yeah, but look at the monitors. The 7 monitors are only for 70 days. That's not for the school year.
Well, that's what I was about to say. I'm actually a little disappointed in this because I think parents want to see that we're looking at monitors on buses for more than 70 days, and that we have them available to us in case there's a problem. So I think we need to take that into consideration. And I think another thing that parents have really, discussed with us about the issues that they're having are the times they're waiting at bus stops, the fact that there's the gang bus stops where they're walking further to bus stops, and the crossing of double yellow lines has come up as well. We didn't address any of that.
So I want to know what it's going to cost to fix that.
Yes.
Right? That's what,
I'm disappointed
if
that
we
this doesn't happen.
if we double this and it's $200,000 per year, we're still talking about 0.4% in tax levy to fix this. Right?
This is the transportation.
This is just the transportation issue, right? But what are the other big issues?
Well, the transitions.
So the transitions,
You can't fix that with a bus.
I know you can't fix that with a bus.
Let me explain something that probably is not here. We put it here because Anthony needs it for help. In order for you to work here as a custodian, you have to be a custodian driver.
Yeah.
Besides the head custodians, everyone has to drive. If you remember last week, Anthony said, I need 2 people. If we go back to the way we were, if we stay the way we are, I need 2 people because they used to be 2 more people. More if we stay the way we are, because instead of having a custodian at 9 in the morning to say, now it's coming at 9:30 because it's driving longer hours. So here we didn't add those 2 other half people because no matter what, we would need them.
So it's just this creating more complexity, right? I just want to know, what is it going to cost to fix
Well, I think,
transportation?
okay, but what I think we do need that, but I just want to call attention to, this is a manual process. It will take Liz so much time and work to run all of this. So if this is truly an ask of the board, we need to have a majority that wants that information, because she is going to spend hours, and correct me if I'm wrong.
It's not hours, it's weeks.
Weeks running these numbers. So if the board is in agreement that they want to stay in the 2 years and keep them in the same buildings, and you want to know how to bandage this up and make it look better, then we ask for that. But we can't ask for that and waste Liz's time if we're changing direction.
That's true.
That's fair, but how are we going to know if it's worth
Changing direction.
changing direction if you don't know what the cost of fixing what we have is?
I don't know if you have this answer, but do we know the number of miles our buses traveled in the old model and the number of miles traveled in the new model?
Because Corey, also remember that this is in addition to what we have today.
Yes. Right. So
that's what I'm saying.
So this again, Enrique, it's not a fair representation then, because I'm thinking I see $100,000 extra per year to fix transportation. That's nothing in the grand scheme of things. Right? But if you're telling me there's a lot more hidden embedded costs that's not
No. What it says here is grade banding. If we stay in the grade banding, this is potential additional cost to today.
We get that.
No, but
right.
we should
I
talk about
get
that.
So if we go back to one of our presentations that we said we're going to be driving 80,000 miles more at $4 or whatever per mile and everything, then this is in addition. So whatever that number was there.
I completely understand that, right? I just want to make sure that we have all the right data to make a good decision.
Of course.
And if we don't have that data, we can't say the model that we're proposing here makes sense, because we can't go back to the community and say, well, we made a mistake, right? The mistake we made last time is we didn't do enough due diligence, we didn't get enough success metrics, we didn't get enough data. I'm asking for the data, I'm asking for the success metrics, I'm asking for all the things that we didn't get last time, and I want to make sure that we're doing all our due diligence before we make another big decision that's going to disrupt the community for another long period.
Okay, we made a mistake and we're not making the same mistake. I totally agree.
Okay.
However, this is a budget, this is just a budget presentation. If that's what you want, definitely for the next week or for whenever the board says, we'll bring you the comparison as close as possible of what would be Princeton plan against neighborhood schools based on what the miles ridden last year and this year. That's the best that we can do, but that's what I think you want.
That's exactly, so, and I
Just
defer.
around transportation.
It's not just transportation,
Right. And so,
correct.
but-
It's all the costs and success metrics, and this is where I defer to Dr. Lauro with his expertise to say, how do we compare where we are today to where we need to be tomorrow, and what makes the most sense based on that, from a cost perspective, from a student education perspective, from an SEL perspective, from a DEI perspective. There are lots of positives and negatives to all the different
The slides
models
you
that we
shared
have
with
to
me
weigh.
2 weeks ago, I think would be really helpful for the rest of the board to see. I think it would be really helpful for the community. We heard from the comments from the community tonight that people want to see these numbers. So I think if you could present that in a way for all of us to, because you walked me through it and it was really helpful for me. So I think the whole entire community and all the trustees would look at that.
I totally agree. I'm not defending us, you are completely right. I'm just saying, today was a budget presentation based, given that no one knows, because you don't know, Dennis doesn't know, no one knows what kind of plan we're going to be next year. So we just have to go through, we are assuming that if we stay, this will be the extra cost. That's all this is. I totally agree. For you to make a different decision, which is, should we go to neighborhood, half neighborhood, whatever, you need a lot more than this.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
But to Corey's original point, this is not what we really needed to begin with, right? Because the goal here was, to whatever budget we were gonna put forward next year, if we're in this current model, was to try to fix some of the problems that we've heard from parents over and over and over again. This doesn't address any of them. So, I mean, I'm not gonna tell you to go back to the drawing board, but I do think do you have any idea, because we asked this and we never really got it, and it's not your fault. We never got like what the average bus time is, what the median bus time is, how many children are on a bus more than 35 minutes? Because the goal ultimately of this, and what was promised to the community, was that kids wouldn't really be on the bus longer than 35 minutes. That was our initial goal, right? We didn't get there. And I think parents, that was the solve, right? I mean, that's the fix. That's the goal.
Yeah, we want the buses to be on time, we want the kids to be
Right.
on a short ride. We want to have monitors on the bus because we didn't anticipate there would be problems without the diverse ages of kids
Yeah,
on
we
the
also
bus.
don't want kids standing and sitting on the floors. This doesn't
Right.
address that.
Well, it also doesn't
And I don't
address,
think it
so,
does.
so bus times
That's
can't be
true.
the only measure
This was
either.
to address kids having enough seats, and this
It's
was,
just one, it's just
this
one.
was to address kids having
I'm
enough
happy with
seats,
that.
both middle school and elementary school, so that's not true. We did talk about gang buses, but you did say you'd have to get back to us, or gang bus stops.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear.
And the double lines, you did take an action to go look at that. So I mean, I don't think that it doesn't not address them. I think she needs to build a detailed schedule.
Well,
to
because
approve
I'm
that.
putting my budget together, I wasn't putting together.
Correct, a bus route.
Presentation, you know, like, had we.
I understand.
You know, it's a whole different subject, and
Another thing we didn't.
I think that, you know, that wasn't something that I was supposed to include in here, but, you know, this is a conversation that we've had, and I know. And, you know, kids crossing WL lines, and, you know, I know all that. I have 6 kids in this district, 6 grandkids in this district. I know all of it, I know. All right, and I hear them, I hear the parents. I didn't create these bus routes.
I totally
Okay.
understand.
And when they were given to me and I expressed my concern about them, I was told not to change them. When I added a bus to Frenchie and added a bus to BV, I, you know, heard that was, I shouldn't have done that without permission. So, you know, I was hired to do transportation. That's what I was hired by the board to do. And so, you know, that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, and I also just wanna, I know we have the CSD contract here, and they agreed to this, which is wonderful, but I think we do need to make sure that we have other monitors, like, on standby, right? That's part of the budget, in case there's an issue, right? Didn't we discuss that earlier in the year?
CSEA only agreed to 3 months. So.
Won't be that long.
Okay.
No, but you have a valid point.
Right.
We cannot, we can try to find substitute chauffeurs for next year, and we can do it for the whole year.
As needed, I don't think we need 20 of them, right?
But our idea here was for us to have a discussion, are you comfortable with this extra cost?
Oh, yeah.
Or,
I was actually thinking it was gonna be more, because
I was going to say that, or maybe you want even more, given that it's only 102,000 and you were
I
expecting.
think that's what, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So
That's why we did the
the
presentation.
idea here was to have this discussion and for the board to tell us, hey, I want 7 monitors, but 180 days. And whatever that number is, put it in the budget.
Right, okay.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe, Dennis, we can discuss with the board and have that specific presentation that I made to Alexandra and to Alexis about the cost comparison, separate to the budget so we can make a decision.
Yeah, because we haven't seen that, like
So why don't we just do it in public, so everybody has it?
Yeah.
No, that's what I'm saying. We'll do it. I think that next week.
We can do that next week.
We can do it next week. It's already done. Next week, we have 2 major presentations, but we can do it.
Time is of the essence. If you want us to make a decision, then we need this data.
Okay,
Does
then
everybody
let's do
else
it
do
next week.
How many bus runs are there per elementary? Well, for the
How many buses?
BB Frenchie run? How many are there in the morning and how many are there in the afternoon? And how many are there for Furnace Woods in the morning and the afternoon?
Furnace Woods is 7 in the morning and 7 in the afternoon. And then Frenchie BV combined, I use 12 buses to get them into school in the morning because they're combined. And then going home, I have 7 at Frenchie Lindsay and there's 7 at BV.
So how do we get 7 monitors for 2 hours? That doesn't,
Because
that's,
it would be K1.
oh, you're only gonna do
Yeah.
K1, so, okay.
Since we're doing, Margaret, you're doing your budget the next meeting, right?
Yes.
It would be helpful because Margaret's budget could change too if we go a different route.
Yes.
So for her to give one and then another, like this is just budget season and this is what we're doing. I think for me and for the community, so I could make a decision, we have this model is this bottom cost and these are the pros and the cons. This model is this bottom cost and here are the pros and the cons. But to do it at each one of these, it's just way too confusing.
No, that's true, so that's true. I agree, but what Corey's original ask was, and what my ask is, we cannot, fixing any problem at only $100,000 with the current plan that we asked them to do doesn't fix any of our problems, right? So
Or
this-
validate if it does fix.
Right. So like, I understand this is just a budget presentation, but on the surface level, this doesn't solve the monitor issue for families. I think we need monitors, not just on K-1 buses. Like, when did we discuss that? Like, this is not, to me, this, I hear you, that this is, but if this was what we're staying in Princeton plan next year, this is the presentation we're getting, this is not enough to fix, for me to fix the issues we have. I think that's what so I know that's a big statement to make, but and I'm not on finance, but this does not address our concerns.
But I think the biggest problems in transportation were the way that the routes were developed, and I think that changing the way that the routes were developed, I think will make significant improvements.
Okay.
And we can do that with existing buses or with the additional buses too? So going from 7 on
It
the route
depends
to
on
9
what plan you take. It depends on what plan you take.
Okay, and I would love, if the board is up for that, I would love to see that. I don't want you working weeks on this. I know it's gonna take time, but, I don't think we have weeks
No, we
to
don't.
get an answer.
So, let me ask a question because I'm new. We don't have an automated bus,
We use TransFinder, but
You do.
someone has to sit there.
put
and-
the data points in. I understand that. But that, isn't that in there already?
Every student's geocoded.
Isn't it in there though?
Yes, but I still have to develop the routes. Because right now, as the routes exist, so now we have to take the database, move it over, and then start to
Okay.
go through we have to go student by student.
So let me ask, can you have that for next week?
No. Not if I want a secretary.
What would
She
it,
will
what
walk
would it
out the
take?
door.
What help can we provide to get it done? We don't have the time to answer. It has a larger impact
I
on,
understand that, but there's no way it'll be done in a week.
But
we'll talk about it.
can you, Kate,
I think what you need is parameters. So, I heard two things, let me ask this of the board. I heard somebody saying 17 minutes, and then I heard 34 minutes, and I know there were 60-minute bus routes. What are we satisfied with? What are we aiming at? What's what do you want, not to exceed that?
When Princeton plan was proposed and when it was voted on by the board, it was 35 minutes was what they were told. That was maximum was 35 minutes.
Okay.
And that's where the major disappointment came in September. So the solve is 35 minutes and no more. That's where we landed. That's what we were told.
It's gotta be more than just bus time, no? Because, do you want a kindergartner picked up at 8:02 and dropped off at 4:04? That's a fairly long day for a 5-year-old.
Yeah, but
He may be on a bus for 35
That's the same
minutes,
no
but if he's
matter
out of his house for 8 hours a day, or she's out of his house, I think it's a long time for a 5-year-old.
We can't.
But how's that?
Yeah, but that's not, but what we were, I think what Dr. Laura was saying is what was our goal originally? Right?
What was our
Well-
length before? What was our longest rides before Princeton was?
26 minutes.
I think that should be that.
I
35
mean,
minutes is a long time
35
for a
minutes is long, but
5-year-old.
that was when
Look at it
when it
for
was
26.
presented,
Let's
that's
just
what
get
it was.
So
Was it 26?
we'll do the 26, see what it looks like, we can go to 35, and we can do the problem. I don't know if we're gonna save a bus or two, but I think we need to solve the problem.
Yes.
And if it's 26, then it's 26.
We should just ensure whatever the longest bus ride was, that's what we go with. Like the old previous, just make sure before we say it's 26. Because we've heard longer than 26 here. We've heard other parents say they've had 35 minutes before. So we just want to make sure that we're on par. People said it.
I have a non-principal.
And more importantly, that they're on time. I know we don't want people standing around getting their bus as
Yeah, to
they're
Jeremy's
expected.
point. Yeah, to Jeremy.
So I have a non-principal plan question. So your costs are increasing for materials and supplies, for tires and chains. Is that because of the cost of goods or that?
Cost of goods.
Okay, so that's just inflation that's going up. It went up last year, it's gone up again.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Okay, and then explain the 4 new half people plus AFA's half people. What are they doing and why do we need 4 new people on staff?
So a number of years ago, when, I don't even know who the superintendent was, we lost a number of positions, a number of custodial driver positions. as people, because we went through a, big budget crisis and, so we lost a number of positions. We never gained those positions back. And, Anthony just feels very strongly that he needs to have these people in the building.
And he needs all 4 this year. Okay. Thank
So
you.
they're 2 a.m.
Well-
and 2 p.m., right? Like, that's how,
I think that was his
yeah,
point.
that was his point.
It's just a big jump is all. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I never heard that you needed another bus, another lift. That was, when you
So
said this,
when
that
we-
was the first
So,
time.
so 2 budgets ago, not
Yeah.
this one, but 2 before that,
Yeah.
we put in for a band to do lifts at the bus garage. Because our lifts had failed inspection, and so we were going through a whole big thing. And so we did go to the band, and the plan was to put 2, and it was a $500,000 band, and that's what we were gonna do was those. But when they finally, after COVID, came back with everything, the price for the first lift was so high because the cost of everything had gone up so much that we didn't have enough money left over to do the second lift. So we've since done some repairs to that lift. It's passed inspection, it's able to be used, we can use it. Eventually in a great world, we would love to replace the second lift, but right now, I didn't plan for that to be done.
Okay. I just want to, you're below the 500, well below it now. And if it's only 75,000
Yeah,
and
it's not.
100,000.
No, the one we put in was supposed to be 300,000. I think it cost us closer to 400,000.
Okay.
And we
They
had
need
put,
to ask for
and we had put $500,000 in there, so.
So Enrique, is that subject to state aid? Because now that our state aid has increased, does that mean the cost would go down and?
Definitely, it's
aidable expense.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to get Liz that lift if there's any way we can do that with the
now
state aid.
sorry to interrupt. This next year, our transportation rate goes from 12% to 32%.
There you go.
So that 400,000 will be 280 for us.
Yeah, that's great.
Can we put it in the building conditions plan and just add it to that?
Usually everything that has to do with buses, we do it in a separate position. And so Dennis, for some reason, and I don't know why, in the 16 years that I've been here, the bus proposition passes with more votes than anything else.
Well, that's what people want.
I don't know why, it's just interesting that people might say no to the budget, but yes to get new buses. I'm just giving you a
No, that's good.
what?
And what's the depreciation for a normal lift? It's gotta be over 10 years, right?
Oh, the lift we had was 20-something years old.
So you've got that too, right? You've got the depreciation expense over time, you got the additional state aid. It sounds like fiscally we could do this, right?
Let's discuss it because, again, the one thing, it really will depend on
The rest of the budget.
the rest of the budget. I was going to say, if we can bring down the tax levy to a manageable number, below 2%, I think that makes all the sense. I definitely do.
Great, thank you.
So just one of the other things that we discussed in finance that we didn't discuss here is electric buses. Enrique and I actually have a meeting with a representative from Bird Bus and a grant writer. I just came back from my conference up in Albany, and everybody up there, all the experts are all saying that it's going to be pushed past 2025, and there's like this magic fund of $500 million out there for people. But we'll see. We haven't qualified for a grant before, but Bird Bus has a company and a person that they hired just to do grant writing. So we're gonna meet with them on the 21st of March, and we'll see where that takes us.
Does the fact that we produce solar help us in any way? Because, oh, just asking.
No, but we also then will have to look eventually at the infrastructure of the garage. Because that's,
Yeah, electric is good.
yeah, and we're gonna have to, put charging stations inside because having them outside is not conducive to good charges, and so it's a whole big long list of things we'll have to do eventually.
Is the bus garage part of our APC with Siemens?
Yes.
Yes, okay, I wasn't sure.
Okay.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have anybody signed up for audience comments on agenda items? One, okay.
Hi, and welcome Dr. Laurel. I wasn't planning on talking, but I just wanted to clarify a transportation issue. One, which I have mentioned to you before, which was a bus thing. 26 minutes was not the longest time before, and I know that because my son, who is now in 3rd grade at BV, was in kindergarten at BV, and before his bus ride was about 40 minutes. He was getting home anywhere between 3:50 and 3:55 in the previous model. Currently now I have 2 children who are within the schools. I do have 4 in total, but 2 who are in the schools right now. And one is at BV, one is at FGL, and their bus rides have been shorter. In fact, one student comes home at 3:31 from FGL, and the other one gets home at 3:35. So I am not waiting for a long amount of time for 2 children now, where before my son, like you were saying, that time out of the house, it was 20 minutes longer before that. I used to have to rush to get him to baseball practice at 4, where now he can, come home, have a snack before going to practice or a game. And then while I'm up here, I have a few questions that I wanted to ask to the board. If we are considering a new model, what would be the district lines? Who would determine that? Who would develop that? What happens when numbers change within district lines? Are we going to keep changing that every year? And does that outweigh the current transition time that we have now? And then what happens to our students who are together this year, only to be torn apart again next year? And now they're going to be in different schools, and we're going to have that same issue of how are we going to get them together? And what's going to happen to our teachers? Who's going to decide which teachers move when they have to pack up? And are we going to be fair to everyone there? So I just have some questions for you to consider. I know this is all new, so I'm just giving you guys something to think about. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, moving along to, is there committee reports?
I have something.
Oh, wait, we have another.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Hey, John, you're going to take this. And my question I have is, why or has the district looked at leasing some of this rolling stock? In other words, in a lot of areas in the transportation industry these days, whether it be trucking, especially aircraft, people lease the equipment, Yet the school district here buys all this stuff. They got all this heavy hardware sitting around. And leasing would give me a much different perspective as far as having these buses around. Now, I don't know when the last time anybody looked at leasing some of this equipment versus buying it. I know that, you keep saying, well, the state reimburses us every time we buy a bus, but they don't reimburse you 100%. A number of years ago, a few of us looked at liquid natural gas, changing the buses, okay? Or compressed natural gas. Has anyone looked at that lately? Because liquid natural gas, compressed natural gas is a lot cheaper than diesel. And it's certainly a lot more abundant, okay? Especially in today's, trying to get away from fossil fuels. And I know liquid gas is a fossil fuel, but it's a lot more abundant and it's a lot more cheaper. The time we looked at this, the gas companies were willing to actually put in a refueling farm for you without a cost to the district. Again, a way to cut down on some of this extravagant cost of transportation, which is always so high. Or when was the last time anybody looked at actually farming the transportation out? In other words, why does it have to be done in-house if you can start saving some money by farming it out? Why not? I mean, it won't be the first district to ever do it. In fact, there's plenty of districts around here that have farmed it out. When was all that looked at lately? I mean, can it save you I don't know what it can save you. Certainly, maybe it won't save you $1 million, but who knows what it's going to save? And with an $88 million budget, you know, anytime you save anything, you're doing something. And the last thing I have to say is, doesn't anybody think that $284,000 in overtime is a little high for, you know, drivers? I mean, it's a bunch chunk of money, folks. And, you know, here we go. I mean, transportation is expensive. But, you know, you can knock it down. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, safety? Yep, committee reports?
We had a safety committee about 10 days ago, right before the break. We discussed training staff in Narcan, and there was an update that 9 staff outside of our nurses have been trained in Narcan, and they've got Narcan on their in the schools, and that the next training is in April, and that we are looking to get even more staff and teachers trained, specifically our custodians, our athletic coaches, so we make sure that we have coverage during after school hours as well when nurses aren't necessarily around. We talked about a grant for radios. The local, that was a Westchester police officer, recognized that we have poor cell coverage up here and that it's an issue. Long term, they're working on new cell towers and something called trunking. I don't know what that is, but in the short term, there's been we've purchased more radios for our security and administration within the buildings. So in case of emergency, we have guaranteed communications. And then Liz talked about it a little bit. It was about some bus driver training. They're called tabletops, where they practice scenarios. So the bus drivers feel really confident in being able to make decisions should an emergency arrive. So those were some of the highlights from this past month.
When is your next safety meeting? You know? Yeah, I just want to make sure that we get it done before. Yeah, not right now, whatever. Awesome. Thank you. Any other committees?
I have a couple.
Sure.
So I have them written down because I didn't want to forget, because by the time it gets to 9:30, 10 o'clock, I start to get, I forget. So there's a couple of big events coming up. Ms. Boyle mentioned the one, that's March 25th, but the high school senior fashion show is next Friday, March 10th at 7:30 in the high school gym. And that's the members of the 2023 class will walk the runway in different outfits. Their theme is time warp. There's raffles, concessions, a silent auction, student artwork. There's an intermission performance by the cast of Mamma Mia. And their show is actually the following week, the 17th, 18th, and 19th. For the fashion show, the tickets are $20 adults, senior citizens are $15, and the students are $10. You can get them on the PTSA Facebook page. I just want to say that this fundraiser is how the PTA funds the senior awards that they get every year. And it also, last year they were able to help the kids with prom, and they actually passed some funds down to the junior class as well, because they were behind on fundraising because of COVID for not being able to. So, you know, this is it does benefit. We call it a senior fashion show because it stars as seniors, but it does benefit everyone. And after that, the Harlem Wizards are coming the next day. And I heard through the grapevine that the Wizards are visiting, I think, at least the elementary schools tomorrow, which is so fun. I'm not sure if they're going to get the middle school, but I think they have been in the past, but definitely at the elementary schools, which is awesome. And their tickets are on sale. They're $20 to $60. And I think they're announcing the All-Star team on Friday, which is fun. That's our Hen Hut All-Star team. And you can buy tickets. I think I was told we're getting an email Friday about this, so everyone look out for that. And then Mamma Mia tickets can be purchased on showticksforyou.com or .org. So there's a lot going on for our kids. Awesome. Oh, and the Harlem Wizards is for HHCF, which is the Education Foundation, which goes to K-12.
Thank you, Erica. Anybody else? New business? Comments? Anything? No? All right, can I have a motion to close the meeting? Have a second? All in favor?